good morning to some people who are in a different part of the world. Welcome to the UX Design to Grow Your Business webinar. My name is Mbali Mwelase. I'm the Business Development Executive for Winjit South Africa. I will be your host for this afternoon. Before we get started, I'd like to share, go through a few housekeeping rules. We will take question and answers at the end of the session. There is a chat box where you can actually pose your questions. Without further ado, let me introduce today's speakers. We've got Joe de Klerk, Head of Innovation at CCS Construction Computer Software. The second speaker will be Priyanka, the Vice President at Winjit for Business Transformation. Lastly, we've got Swetang, who's the product designer at Winjit. Thank you very much. Those will be our speakers for this afternoon. The hashtag today is UX Design. So this will be a very engaging session. I'll just start and ask the first question to our speakers. So there is much hype about user experience. So I want to start this session with understanding what is user experience and how is it different from user interface?
Okay, thank you so much, Mbali, for opening up the session. To explain user experience, I would like to use a very simple analogy. Now, let's say you decide to go skydiving tomorrow. You are up in the air and you just take a jump. The moment you take a jump, you would see clouds around you and the bluest form of sky and a beautiful green landscape before. This entire view that you see, that's your user interface. But the experience that you get when you are in the jump, it's simple, it's easy for you to just simply glide into the floor because gravity is doing all the job. This experience which stays with you, that's user experience. Now, when I see a picture of someone who's skydiving, I want to buy that product. That's user interface. So user interface makes me buy that product. But this experience which stays with me, that makes me come back every time again. So user experience helps you retain your product and retain your user. Now, practically speaking, it's safe to say that UI is actually a subset of UX, which means that you would go through this entire cycle of user research, which will actually tell you what your user personas are. It will help you create your user journey. And then the outcome of all this activity is your wireframe, which then translates into your UI, which is where your screens are designed, your colors are selected, the typography is done, and then you have an interface for your user to interact with.
Okay. Thank you very much for that insightful response, Priyanka. The second question to unpack UX design is how can user experience provide a better customer experience?
So in terms of UX methodologies, so mostly UX is based on delivering the meaningful experience to the customer. Okay, so when we say that is a meaningful experience, it means a useful experience. When Priyanka mentioned, okay, so someone has to skydiving, so it requires a plane, not a spaceship. Okay, so when you deliver that kind of experience, means when you have to deliver a plane for that experience, so it make experience useful for the customer and user. It also helps you to become findable in sort of user experience. So what I mean by findability? So findability is nothing but the recognition of the patterns. The pattern means if you're trying to search, okay, you mostly say, I want to Google it. So that is your mental model of the user. And when you try to reinvent that search thing, it's become hard to find and hard to recognize. So UX methods helps to recognize those patterns in terms of customer experience. Yeah.
Wow, we keep learning. Okay. I think the next question for me would be how does how do business then manage to actually measure the outcomes of UX?
So to begin with, UX has the kind of impact which helps you differentiate your product. I'll again take an example of both Apple and Microsoft. Now, there is a set of user base, which has always been a Microsoft user. I would use a Windows OS. And there is a set of users who would use your Apple OS. But the retention rate, which would be there for an Apple OS user, would be way higher compared to a Windows OS user. So I can switch from Windows to Apple, but the vice versa is a very fair possibility, which essentially says that UX has a very high retention rate. So retention rate of your customer is one of the best metrics to measure whether your UX is getting better or not. The second is to understand how, what's the rate of your users' frustration, what are the problems, and what is the satisfaction rate. So the feedback that you get from them. And the third matrix is to understand what is the rate of abandonment. So let's say we have a certain set of activities or jobs which are to be done on an application portal, and my users often drop out because the process is very lengthy or because it's difficult for them to make sense out of where is what placed, then that is a good matrix to measure the impact of UX.
Thank you, Priyanka. Well, my next question then is, as a strategist, when it comes to product design, what are the key principles that you consider for enterprise app design?
So on the enterprise design side, and I believe that Joe is having some trouble connecting with us today. I just messaged him a while ago. It's been very interesting working with him in that space, especially because the product that they own is been in the industry for the past 35 years. It is something, so if I could request you to like scroll in a little at the bottom. Yeah, another slide. Yeah, so he was sharing this interesting insight about how it's a 35-year-old product and it caters to the entire financial market, which means that while we have the liberty to be creative with it, there is still a cognitive bias which the user base would have. Now, everyone's a financial user. They're used to seeing Excel sheet. They're used to working with the way an Excel functions powerfully. So that's the challenge like with enterprise UX design. Here, the key focus begins with the clarity at which things are progressing. So we need to have clarity in how and the application is used. It should be self-explanatory. The shorter your user manual gets, the better your enterprise product is. The second is it needs to go with the brand consistency or the theme of the entire product as such. So if I have multiple suite of products within my enterprise suite, they all should look like they belong to one entity and should not be a standalone product in itself. And the third and final most thing is about how do you ensure that your user spends the least amount of time on your product. Now that would be a little controversial to say because everyone wants the user to be there on your product. But on the enterprise side, the sooner they are able to get the job done, the better it is for the user.
Interesting. Not sure if Joe is here or has Joe managed to join us already? I don't see him.
I've just dropped him a message, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll just move on. We'll allow him his time when he does eventually join us. I just want to find out again, how can other teams in the organization benefit from UX design?
Swethank, you want to take that question?
The first person to actually pick up on this.
Oh, yeah. So that was basically some internet issue. So UX is always a cross-platform, cross-team activity. It is not just like one team doing the UX activity and all of work will be useful for the UX. So when I say so UX is a cross-platform activity, it means we do the user research. That can be helpful for the marketing team as well. So marketing team requires sort of research and information about it, people, persona, and how they want to position their brand as well. Okay, and they will position brand according to their products. So understanding products which help them to understand how they can position their brand. In terms of business stakeholders, there will be a lot of data generated by the UX process. So what I mean by again the lot of data, that is when we do the user research, we do the user testing, usability testing. It generates a ton of rich data that could be help business people to make a decision based on that data. It will be not like something we have just assume and then making a decision on that. Okay, so there will be a data to back those decisions. In third terms, the development teams. So development team will get a structured user layouts and the user flows, so they can scale the designs or development according to that part. So yeah, so it will help all teams, including development, marketing, as well as a business team. So yeah, so that is a benefit for the all teams in the organizations.
Oh, interesting. I'd just like to engage Swetank again. I just want to find out, is there any significant difference between consumer versus enterprise product UX?
So in terms of UX process, there is no significant difference, okay? But in terms of approach, there is a significant difference, okay? So when we say there is a significant approach difference, we have to understand there are two different types of users. So first is the customer who actually buys the product, and one is the end user who actually use the product. This is in terms of enterprise experience. So when we, in terms of consumer experience, there will be a direct communication between your product and the consumer. So you have to understand customer requirement as well as the end user requirement while you developing or designing the enterprise experiences for the product. Secondly, enterprise experience are more feature driven instead of the delight driven. So when we say the feature driven, so organization trying to accomplish certain goals by using certain tools. So it is not just like to have ordering a food or something like that. They try to have a complete set of operations accomplished by the certain number of applications. So that is the one difference, key difference. There is a UX is a feature driven UX that we can call as a enterprise UX. And third is a complexity. So level of complexity in enterprise experience and the user experience will vary. So in terms of complexity, just imagine to have an experience for the airport management system and experience for the ordering food. There is a vast level of difference between the complexity of those two problems. So certainly, so the complexity difference is there. And third, and the most important is the research. So enterprise users are the vocal about their problems, and it is easy to understand what their needs are. In terms of the actual consumer products, you have to do research and a ton of research. So basically what it happens, you have to understand the persona, you have to understand user behavior, you have to understand user needs, and then you have to come to the conclusion that the user may require that. Again, so that is a may condition. It is not a certain condition where user exactly looking for that solution. But in terms of enterprise users, so business owner knows, okay, what I want to have it in my solution, so my business can deliver better performance. So those are the key differences between the approaches for the enterprise as well as the consumer experience.
Thank you very much, Swetank. Welcome to Joe. Not sure if I can actually shoot. We did have a question for you. You know, we wanted to find out, as a strategist, when it comes to product design, what are the key principles that you consider enterprise app designing?
So I think your speaker is still mute. Yeah.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right, just apologies for that. I had some connection problems and struggled to connect. So yes, the key principles for us around the UX design, there's basically three of them, which we always look at, which is key for us. The first one is ease of use. So for us, it's the UX design help us to enable the intuitive designs around the application, so that it's easy for a user to start and finish whatever it needs to do without having to read the help files, and really just ease of use. Secondly, it must look good. The millennials, the generation, they buy their eyes, so software must look good, otherwise they're not interested, and they will look for other applications. And thirdly, we're looking for a consistency across all products. And for that, there's two main key principles around that. So we strive to get our products aligned with our corporate identity, so that when you look at the software at the different products, they do look like they're coming from the same organization. And secondly, we're trying to keep each product, that they still have their own individuality because they are different. They do have their own unique purpose and functionality that they've been built for.
Okay. All right. Just to add on that, I just want to find out then, what is the value, what value has design brought to your business?
So value is all about an upfront product design, which is 4 concepts for us there. The one is clarity around the concept. So what we do is, in our R&D phase, we will do quick mock-ups, sometimes just hand sketches. So sometimes we go into our online collaborative boards, these days being remote working. We connect online, we do some schematics. We then give that to the UX designer, who then creates for us clickable wireframes. That then goes out to the various stakeholders for analysis. And the reason we do that is that it's far easier for a UX designer to move a button from one point to another point than what it is to do it in software. And it's also easier to get concepts across and to get buy-ins from various stakeholders. Secondly, faster development. Development time is expensive. And when you get a proper design together, your teams can design very quickly, or not design very quickly, so they can develop very quickly without having to redo and repetitive work, because you've gone through all that whole design phase. Then thirdly, because you're now able to develop faster, your costs reduce. So your investment into the product comes down. Also onto that, because we develop faster, our time to market is a lot quicker, which means we increase our revenue. We can generate revenue from the products we develop a lot sooner because of that. And then fourthly is customer acceptance, because sometimes what we do is we take these clickable wireframes, and if we're not 100% sure about the functionality, we'll run it by some of our key customers. That helps us with R&D in our products to see what they think. So once the product then gets out there and they start using it, there's a much higher level of customer acceptance.
Okay. All right. So the next question for me would be, for organizations that want to start adapting UX design process, where should they start, and what should they look for, and what should they avoid?
So to begin with, for any organization, I think the first step is to start by understanding their product maturity level. When I say product maturity, how long has it been in the market? Because if it's been there for a long time, it may not be feasible to completely overhaul it, because there is a certain pattern that your users have developed. In that case, the first and foremost approach is to start with a UX review. So when you do a UX review of your product, you could find out, based on the UX principle, what are a good opportunity area, as in this is a right place to cross-sell, this is a right place to probably upsell, and then you can find in the quick wins and the probable best solutions in a faster way. In case you're just starting out and you have a hybrid product development model, for that, a UX workshop is the best fit, because before the start of your product development itself, you can lay out, you can spend a good 1 month of time understanding who your users are, what their personas is, and what their needs are. And in case if you're an agile organization which works in a lean method, then the most recommended way is to add in a design sprint to your development cycle. So you could go ahead with the agile methodology, and design sprints becomes your sprint zero at the start of development. And like Joe mentioned, it reduces your development time drastically because your ideas are validated in advance itself. This is the approach when they are starting out. Two things which we care about a lot is to build empathy at the core of your organization. So it's not just the designer who would be responsible on thinking what your user needs and putting themselves in the shoes of the user, but this culture of empathy kind of embeds in your developers, your QCs, your project managers, your business teams, your marketers, and all of it. And they're all speaking the same language. Lastly, build everything on top of your user research, because you cannot build something and not talk to the user enough. That's so like, again, the more you're speaking to your user, the more you understand, like, is this something that they really need? There is this one example which just popped in my head right now, and I use it often. Now, there's this method called jobs to be done, and it's a very frequently used method within the design community. What it essentially speaks is that your users' loyalty are very less, and it's always shifting. It's very difficult to bind in the user loyalty. Like, unlike 20 years ago, where there were only a handful of softwares which did my job, the scenario has completely changed right now. Today, if I want anything to be done, there is a possibility that there are 20 or rather like 200 products which does that. Now, in this scenario, how do I make sure that I'm still loyal to your brand or loyal to your product? And there's a very good example about a 3M sticker. So if I have to kind of hang a frame on the wall, I would need a hammer, I would need a nail, and I would need to, I would need a drilling machine. And sorry, I'm so bad with hardware, but you would need like 4 different things. But then came 3M and it launched this very super glue sticker. You stick it to your wall and you hang a frame. That's done. Within one go, it reduced all the 3 jobs which the nail had, the hammer had, and the drill had. And this product has been there in our, universe since like 50s of years. So that's essentially jobs to be done. Do you do it faster? Do you do it better? And do you do it the best? So.
Okay. Right. I think I have another question. I just want to find out, what is the next big thing in UX design? But
So basically, in terms of UX, okay, so UX is not just one activity. It is certain complex level of activities. Okay. So when we say the UX derives the UI, but there is something bigger than UX as well. So that called as a CX. So that is a customer experience. When you involve user experience with the brand experience, that become a UX. That is a thing happening now. And apart from that CX, there is a service design as well. When we say services, now every product is a service. You have to, if you look at the Amazon, it is a service delivering the products, but you have to make sure your website works where your sort of warehouses integrate with that website where product get ordered. Then you have to ship that product to that consumer. Okay, so that is not just a digital experience, but also physical experience. So the combining those things, digital experience and the physical experience, will be a sort of challenge for the upcoming UX activities. So and that is a part of service design.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to pose this question to Priyanka. I wanted to tell us about a project that she's most proud of, that she's recently completed.
Well, there are just so many of them, to be honest. I feel I'm slightly biased towards all the emerging tech product and the projects that we do. The reason being that in that scenario, there is a crossroad of so many things. There is a crossroad of you understanding the business. There is a crossroad of you understanding the design. And then there is also a road about understanding the technology. So our most interesting use case would be around this machine vision UX design, which we recently did. And the use case was for object detection. And let's say like we are looking at monitoring or crowd controlling people in a mall. And we had like this one interface wherein there was video, and on top of it, we had to draw borders. Now it's very simple from a talking perspective, but for a security guard, and usually like we had to understand the domain or the demographic of that region, it was more on a senior individual side. So how do we make it easy for him to understand that this is a video and you could double click and draw borders? So we went into like multiple cycles of researching them, questioning them. And the partner that we were working with, our customer, he was also very intuitive around that this is not easy to understand. So we particularly enjoyed that project. So it was a machine vision project where we were trying to enhance the user experience. That's the one that I'm extremely proud of.
Okay, thank you very much. And then maybe the last one would probably go to Swetank again, is how would you improve UX like on an existing product?
So when we try to improve the UX, first you have to understand where it is not satisfying the user first. And the second thing, whether the product is matching the user goals. So when we try to design a user experience, if it is not matching or it is not delivering the or the fulfilling the user goals, you cannot deliver the user experience. As a, for example, if I want to travel from my neighbor city, so I will prefer a cab, train, or the bus. But if you're offering me the spaceship, there is no use of that. So first you have to find out whether your product fits into that sweet spot of user goal and a business goal. So then only you can deliver the experience part of that. So when you understand your product is fit in that sweet spot, you have to understand where product is failing to deliver the experience. That can be done by various methods. So you can run A/B testing, you can run user interviews, you can form a focus group, and all those stuff will give you the enough data to work around. Okay, so where it is not exactly working. So then once you understand what is not working, you have to brainstorm around that. So how you can brainstorm? There are multiple methods by which you can brainstorm. So the most popular one is a workshops and a design sprint. So when we say the workshop and design sprint are the most popular, so, just because of those are a very short time activities. Okay, it will not take 1 or 2 months to do that. So it will be a week or 2 weeks activity where you will get an idea about how your product will work, or the how the next or the imagination of the user experience will be, and you can test that with the actual users. So you will you don't have to wait for the 6 months to just test how the upcoming UX or the thought of UX will be. So that the process is sort of, you can improve the UX. So that will be the process.
I have one quick question, Ambali. I'm sorry, I'm like hijacking the whole section, and that's specifically for Joe, because I don't know when I'll get to pick his brain again. So when we're speaking of UX, and we're probably speaking about how a business needs to be aware, when you're looking to get buy-in from internal business and different departments, how do you convince them of having that value in UX and thinking of your customers, and because there are so many departments and
All right. So for us, we're a very old software company. We've been founded in 1979. And all the years since then, we've never had UX and UI designs. It was all done by engineers and by the software developers themselves. But as software development became faster and new technologies allowed us to develop at a bigger pace, it became important for us to start looking at UX. And first of all, because we're an old company, the guys didn't want to look at it. They said, no, that's a cost we don't need in our business. We can do it ourselves. But then as the developers start developing, and now you're expecting, okay, I mean, let's rephrase. So then what we did is we started bringing in new talent because our business was growing. So we brought in new developers. These guys were now responsible for designing the screens and colors. And what we got, so then we as management look at it and we're saying, no, we don't like this button here. We don't like the shape of that button. Let's just move it over here. And then it's a 2-3 hour exercise for the developer to go and do that. And when you sum up the cost of that, it starts warranting putting a UX person on the job, because then you can design it, you can look at it, the other stakeholders can look at this and saying, yes, I agree with it. And yesterday we had a session like that, where we looked at a piece of the new software we're looking. And when we looked at it, we didn't pick up that some of the icons were not consistent and that a group button were in a different place. So when some of the others that looked at it says, okay, but that button is inconsistent, and it's a lot easier then for the UX guy to move it. So in the end, the cost of a UX person doing this for you is well worth it when you save on development time, because developers are a lot more expensive than UX guys.
practically and very well spoken. Thanks, Joe. Over to you back again, Ambali.
Okay. Thank you very much to our speakers. I think we've actually covered everything today. I do think that the audience actually, got all the answers they were looking for. However, if they still want to ask more questions, we are taking questions right now. I'm not sure if we've got any questions so far. Okay, I'm not sure if it's a question or a statement. No, there is no question on the chat box so far. So I'll take it that we've addressed all the issues, you know, for everyone that joined. If that's it, I thank everyone for taking their time and joining us this afternoon. We will then send through an updated presentation. We will post this webinar on YouTube. We will post it on LinkedIn. So for any further questions, you can then contact us. We are available. There are our contact details. We've got contact at Winjit, we've got marketing at winjit.com, and thank you very much for attending this session.
Thank you. Thanks, Imali. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.